All right, in this video, I want to talk about more narcissism stuff. Now, I made a video recently about narcissistic traits, and at the end of the video, I was saying there's more I could say, but I was running out of space where I was writing, so I decided to cut it off there. But there were some other things that popped into my mind that I thought needed to be said that I should say. And it gets more into their controlling aspect and some mythological things that are kind of interesting. How these kind of people used to be described in the past. They described them as a certain type of creature. And it was metaphoric, like a parable, right? It was a way to describe how they are in their heart, in their mind, in their spirit. They are like these type of beings. And I will get into that momentarily, but before I do, I want to talk about how they think they should have control, right? And they want to control you. The reason why they want to control is because they live in a delusion, right? They create this fantasy world about themselves, and they want everybody else to be part of that fantasy world where they think this certain way of themselves, and they want other people to think that way of them too. And if you don't think that way of them, that's going to ruin the whole thing, right? Because then it wakes them up. It wakes everybody up to the delusion, and it breaks their reality. So they got to do something to bring everybody into their reality, right? So they want to control you. They want to control the way you think and the way you feel about things, mainly about themselves, right? So if they can't control you in this way, there's something they want to do, right? Before I talk about what they do when they can't control you, I want to talk about how they try to control you. One of the first things is, it's just plainly said as manipulation, right? And it's usually with emotions. And I think I just messed my pen up again, so it's not working again. Fantastic. Now and then it's just not working, but hopefully I can get it back going here. But anyway, you'll notice that this verse starts as something like, there we go. Why, it's kind of working, kind of not. I have to use my finger here. That's unfortunate. I really don't want to have to use my finger. So it starts off with something like love bombing, right? And they do this because they are basically drug dealers. You see, a drug dealer, a lot of times how he gets new customers is he'll give free samples out, right? They say he's trying to get people buying marijuana. He'll give them some stuff for free and be like, hey, come smoke with me. Try this stuff out, right? And since it's free, they might do it, right? And then he does that a few times. Maybe gives them some time. Hey, some to take with you, right? And eventually the person comes looking for the marijuana. And then that's when they say, well, I can't give it to you to free anymore. You know, I got to charge you now. And then they got the person already wanting it and kind of hooked on the stuff. So they'll be like, all right, I buy it, right? And then, of course, they end up buying more. They got themselves a customer now, right? Somebody who's addicted. And then they tell these lies, especially when they first get people on the marijuana. They'll tell them it's not addictive, it's not habit forming, when it obviously is, because when these people don't have their pot, they get very angry and upset, right? Just like anybody who doesn't get their drug, like their coffee, gets upset, right? Because they're hooked on it, you know, like a koala. They're hooked on their eucalyptus leaves, and when they don't have the eucalyptus leaves, they become little monsters. But when they have the eucalyptus leaves, they're super calm because they're addicted, right? So they get them hooked on the marijuana, and that's what the love bombing right here does. It gets them hooked on the stuff so that when they get used to the whole thing. Like these people will start being very kind and generous and helpful and useful and just being there for you, right? They're love bombing. They're just being generally just fantastic, right? Like, man, I'm really glad this person's in my life. They're really helping out, especially in a time of need and all this stuff. They're just, wow, I love it, right? And then they start to pull back, right? Once they given you this kind of love and affection for free, right? But then they start to pull back because they got you used to it. They get you hooked on it. So then you start coming for it. You start coming to them to get it, right? And then they start making you work for it, right? You want that same kind of affection. Well, it's your fault that you're not getting it. So you need to make these changes about yourself so that you get the same love bomb effect that you were first getting, right? And also during this love bomb phase, when they're doing these emotional manipulations here, they're also doing these things. I'm not sure what to call it. I'm just going to call it phishing, right? They do this thing called, and the pen, like I said, it's working, then it doesn't work. We'll put here phishing. And basically what this is they're just trying to get dirt on you, right? To see if you start to open up to them. They try to get you to open up about things that you normally probably wouldn't talk about, but they try to get you to talk about it, feeling comfortable about it, right? And it's so they can have dirt on you, something to use if there's ever an argument, they can throw it in your face, right? So they're making you feel comfortable with them because they're love bombing, but they're also trying to get you to expose something, anything, even if it's nothing bad, just something you're insecure. You're insecure about something about your looks, whether it's your hair, your size, your shape, your age, your intelligence, whatever it is. Even if it's not even real, it's something that's just in your mind. They try to take that and use that later on. They'll be like, oh, this is something that bothers them, right? I'm going to use that. So if I ever want to either piss them off to gaslight them, I can use that. Or if I want to get them to shut up about something about myself, I'll just say, well, look at this about you, right? Because they know there's stuff about them that you're going to call out. So they have to find something on you to get you to shut up, right? Because it's all about control. And this is how they do it. And then they get you hooked on that, like I said, the love bomb. And that's usually the first thing. And after you're already hooked into this stuff, and they got their hooks in you, and then the manipulations tend to change, right? Because now they never really wanted to love bomb you. They just did that to get you hooked to them. They want you to be their emotional punching bag. They want to just use you to complain to. They want to use you to beat on, right? When they have a bad day because of their boss, because of whatever in their life, they don't feel like a good person. They're going to take it out on you because it makes them feel better about themselves because they're above somebody. They're above you, and that makes them feel good to be above somebody else. So if they can dump everything on you, it makes them feel good. So sometimes this is going to be their wife or their husband or their children or some friend of some kind. But they usually like to have more than one. So even if it is their spouse, even if it is their children, they still want other people to dump this on. Because the more people they have under them, the better they feel about themselves. Like, look at all the people I have under me, right? And then they're always using what they fished for against you, right? And yeah, they use that to control you. And the manipulation they use when they start abusing you, like they start disrespecting you, right? Mistreating you and all these kind of things. Well, when you call that out, one of the things they'll say is something like, you're weak or you're soft, you just can't take it. I'm just trying to toughen you up. No, what they're trying to get you to do is just shut up and take it, is what they're trying to do. And they're training you to take it without saying anything. Right? That's what they're actually doing. And they manipulated you into doing it. Right? So now you put up with their abuse because you think if you say or do anything, you're weak, you're soft. right? You just can't take it. But that's just not the case. The case is that they're a douchebag and they don't want you to call them out on it, right? But when these things don't work and you expose these things, they don't have control. So this is where the next thing comes in. If they can't control you, they want to destroy you. Now it's a little bigger because I have to use my finger now. And it's not necessarily like, oh, they want to end your life, even though they wouldn't mind. They wouldn't mind driving you to do that to yourself, right? Right? If they can't control you, if they could, they would try to push you to take yourself out. Right? You can't say certain things online for some reason, but you know what I mean, right? They want you to off yourself, right? But they can't do that. How they try to destroy you is by talking to others behind your back and spreading rumors. I think I talked about this the last time in narcissistic traits, where they're not going to confront you face to face. They're not going to say the things about you they want to say while you are there. But behind your back, they're going to just plant rumors that, I don't know, that you're a thief. You're an adulterer or adulteress. You're abusive to your spouse, your children. Anything that's going to bother people, to get people fired up, right? You're a womanizer. You're secretly gay. You're or bisexual or something like that, or whatever they can use that. Whoever they're talking to, whatever bothers them, that's how they'll twist it to, right? So if you're talking to some people who are like, let's say family members, they will try to make it sound as though, I can't think of something off the top of my head, to be honest, like, you don't really care about your family or something like that. They try to twist things like that. And if it's about, like, say, your spouse's family, they'll try to make it sound as though you're somehow abusive to them. If it's something like, let's say, to the grandparents, they'll make it sound as though you're abusive to your children. If it's to, like, a certain group of, let's say, like hardcore religious people, they make it sound as though you are homosexual, bisexual, wear women's clothing or something like that. Right? There's something like, they just spread rumors about you. Nothing that they can actually prove, but that's the thing. It doesn't matter what they can prove. It only matters what they can get people to think is true. As long as they can get people to think it's true, then people are going to start treating you that way, right? They'll start trying to tell people that you're the narcissist behind your back, right? They're not going to come out with a video like this and make it public. It's going to be behind your back, trying to make it sound as though you think you're better than everybody else, right? You think you're this high and mighty person, all because you won't submit to them. You have this arrogancy to you, when it's really they have the arrogance, thinking that they should be controlling you and that you're not their equal, right? So they try to destroy you in the hearts and minds of others, right? And we see this not just with people who are narcissists, but we see this in narcissistic groups as well, right? Where, for example, they like to basically take your place. They would like to usurp your place. So an example of this would actually be the Catholic Church, for example, right? They try to destroy Christians. They would kill them, right? But as they were persecuting them, they just kept multiplying. So they were just kind of like, what do we do about this? Well, we can't beat them. Let's join them. So Rome mixed with Christianity and then started misrepresenting Christianity, so that in the hearts and minds of people around the world who don't believe the Bible, they think Catholicism is Christianity because they don't know the Bible. And since they call themselves Christian and they're the biggest group there, they think, oh, well, that's Christian. And since they look at the Catholic Church and see Christian, they're like, I don't want anything to do with that. If that's Christian, no thank you, right? So you see how they stood up and they act as though they are you, and then they misrepresent you to the world. Well, they destroyed you without actually touching you, right? Because there's a lot of times, for example, I can talk to an atheist, and he'll start talking about the Crusades and the Inquisitions. And I'll be like, yeah, those are definitely evil. Catholics are something else, right? But you see how he applied something that applies to Catholics to Christians. All right? Because if you follow Jesus, there's no way you're going to call a crusade and participate in a crusade, or call the Inquisitions and participate in all that stuff. Well, Jesus said to love your enemies, bless those that curse you, turn the other cheek. Right? The whole, I came to save men's lives, not destroy them. Right? So you see how, but in the hearts and minds of people, they think that's Christian. That's like the perfect example of a narcissist. They can't destroy you. Well, they'll destroy how people see you. Right? So now they see Christians as a bunch of hypocrites, where Jesus is a jobless homeless guy going around helping people. And now you have the Roman pontiff, who the Catholics call the Pope there, decked out in fancy clothes with all the golden stuff and the fancy artwork and buildings and all these things, obviously pagan symbolism all over the place. And they're just like, well, this is all hypocrisy and nonsense. And they're right. But they don't see past the lie and how they're not Christian. They're just claiming they are to make you think that's what Christianity is. Right? And then that same church will say, oh, well, you don't even have to be Catholic to be saved. You can be an atheist and still go to heaven. So you see how they block people off completely, totally to the Bible, to the gospel, to actually truly getting saved. All right? All because of lying and misrepresenting the truth. Right? If they can't control you, they'll try to destroy how people see you, even if they have to pretend to be you. Right? One of the things they could actually do, they pretend to be you to send a text message, an email, right? Saying some disturbing things, right? They do these certain things to try to use it against you, right? So, yeah, these are the ways they like, some of the basic ways to control and manipulate and stuff, and just an example of that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is vampires. I was like, yeah. You see how they used to describe people with NPD or narcissism back in the day was as vampires. Now, people think, oh, do vampires really exist? Well, maybe those creatures exist, but I know they do exist as narcissists. Because you see, what are the stories about vampires? Well, they're dead, right? They're undead. It's like they don't have a soul. So they don't really have a heart. They don't really care about others. They lack empathy and compassion, right? And how do they end up getting victims? They always come in the night, in the darkness, because the light, the truth, right? If they were ever in the truth, in the light, it would burn them and they would burn up in ash. So they have to come into darkness, into shady situations, and they have to use hypnosis, right? NLP, some kind of form of manipulation to manipulate you to do and say things you normally wouldn't say and do to get you under their power, right? And how they feed off of blood is because they don't really have any life in themselves, and they see life in others, and they want to take that from them, right? They want to drain the life out of others, right? This is a story about narcissists. That's what vampires are. Narcissists. How they have no reflection because they can't see themselves. They don't want to look at themselves. So when a narcissist looks in the mirror, we may think of, oh, they think of themselves as so great and wonderful. And that's exactly it. They don't have a reflection. What they see in any kind of mirror is perfection, right? They don't see the truth. They don't see the evil things they say and do, They don't accept it. It's always somebody else's fault, always somebody else's problem. They can't see themselves. That's why they have no reflection. You see how the vampire stories are a metaphor for a type of personality disorder. All right? And then vampires, they end up getting, what do they call it, like a harem or something like that? I'm not sure how to actually spell that, to be honest. Is it harem like this? I think so. Something like that. But anyway, they get a little group, and usually they show it like Dracula with a bunch of women, but it can be also men as well, obviously. And they get this harem, and with narcissism, they call it flying monkeys. Right? Flying monkeys. And these are just people who do their bidding, right? So when you notice how they are a narcissist and you want to cut ties from them, they will send the flying monkeys, their little harem, right? The little mutual friends and family that you have, to go spy on you or go tell you things and do these things to try to, provoke you or upset you and all this stuff, right? To just constantly try to be in your life, right? Because you're exposing them. You're trying to shine the light on them. To them, you are Van Helsing, and they need to destroy you, right? And in the stories, if you kill the head vampire, you can set the people free, right? And that's just what happens with a narcissist. If you're able to take out a narcissist, right, you expose them. Not you take them out like the stake to the heart kind of thing. You take them out by bringing the light of the truth of how they are a narcissist, how they don't care about anybody else. They only care about themselves, and they're manipulating everybody and trying to get them to be like them, right? Keeping them under their thumb while they suck the life out of them, right? And how they love bomb and they use all these stuff to blackmail them. You expose how they're doing all this. That you put them to death, right? You put the stake in the heart. Well, then the harem, the flying monkeys, that spell can be broken, and they see the narcissists for what they are. They can break free, and their soul can then prosper again. They can come back. But the head vampire has to be taken out. The narcissist that turned them needs to be exposed. So I felt like bringing that up. So if you have a narcissist in your life and they've infected family and friends, you expose them, it has a chance to set them free where they're not under the spell anymore. The hypnosis has lifted, right? But it's all about them also accepting the truth, right? Because the narcissist is going to fight that tooth and nail. Like, it's not true, even though it's blatantly obvious that it's true. Right? So I just wanted to make this add-on to the video I just made about narcissistic traits. I thought these were some important ones because if you know those narcissistic traits and you start realizing that and you start exposing those things, well, then they might try to destroy you. You notice people started looking at you differently. Well, it's probably because they might have started spreading rumors about you now, right? All these different things happen is because they're behind the scenes manipulating and lying. Right? And you notice like family members acting differently, or friends, co-workers, schoolmates all acting differently as the flying monkeys. Right? This is a spiritual thing going on. And that's why it's described as vampires. Right? You got to watch out for them. This is a real thing. Vampires exist. They're narcissists. And you got to choose a side here. Right? You want to bring the darkness of delusion upon the world, where everybody's in the darkness, or are you going to be a bringer of the light and destroy these vampires to set people free? It's kind of a cool way to look at it, to be honest. Right? Being a vampire slayer. But anyway, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Take care. You like these kind of videos. Please take a moment to pray to our Heavenly Father that He keeps us all going, all His believers, all His children going, even His servants. He puts a hedge of protection around us. And as long as we don't become the soft, lukewarm, letting the fire go out and fall asleep, that He gives us a comfortable, peaceful life until He comes and gets us. And And if need be, that he gives us the strength to let everything go, to give it all up for his glory and honor, to prosper his kingdom, to help others, that we may sacrifice everything for him. And just an amen to Jesus' name for that. Should be all we need right there. But if you want to help me out and this ministry out, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, share the video, share the channel, interact in the comments section. And if you can be a cheerful giver, there's 4 ways you can financially support in the info box. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.